Alright, this is a video tutorial on how to set administrative and parental controls on a Macintosh computer. Now, what I've done is I selected the Apple, and then from the Apple menu, I simply chose System Preferences. Okay, so let's take a look at that now. So again, let's just take a look. Apple, and then System Preferences. Remember that at any time you can use the tool below to pause or stop the video so that you can practice this and then continue with the activities. Now there's a variety of things that we can control within this menu. However, we're focused on the system, the user groups, and then within that panel, the user groups panel will also be able to control parental controls. So we're going to double click on user groups, and that's going to pop us into that menu there. So here you see that I am the current user, Sean Sweeney, because I own this computer, and I am the administrator. We do have some other accounts that are in gray currently because we're not logged into those, and those are other users. One is the school account, and then one is a disabled guest account. Now let's go and say that Sean Sweeney is instead not me, but Sean Sweeney is instead my child, okay? And so currently my child is set as the administrator to the computer, and that's what we don't want. We recommend that you are the administrator as the parent so that you have more knowledge about what your child is doing on the computer and the choices that they're making. Administrative rights allows your child to install things. It also allows your child to make choices about how the computer is managed, and I think that at their level, just being new to the laptops, it'd be better if there's some communication between parents about what's being installed and what's being done with the laptop. So to make some changes, we're going to go ahead and click the lock. Now that lock is going to require the administrative password for this account. So here you'll see it pops up a little screen here, so I can go ahead and type in the password that belongs with that account and click unlock. And now you'll see that these two accounts have become dark black, meaning that now I can edit them or change them. My concern, however, is not with these two users. My concern is instead with creating an account for my child. So right now it's an administrative account, but since I'm using this administrator account to make changes, then I don't necessarily want to make the changes right here. So I'm going to go ahead and create an account for myself first. So I don't have one as the parent, so the parent. Okay, you can of course use your own name, but this is just for demonstration purposes. As the parent, you want to make sure that you choose a very secure password. This password should not be Fluffy the dog, and we shouldn't put a hint that says Fluffy the dog or your dog's name, because that's going to allow our students to know what that password is, so it defeats the purpose of creating an administrative role for yourself. Now I've accidentally made a mistake here and not selected the standard. Okay, so all I have to do to change that is say allow user to administrate this computer. So whenever I click this, you'll notice that this is going to make a change to make me an administrator. So it's as simple as that, little click of the button, and now I'm an administrator of this computer. I'm now going to go ahead up and I'm going to select my child's account, and I'm going to click unselect this, and so it's going to change this child from being the administrator instead to click OK. So it's accepting that. It's just saying that these won't be official changes until you've restarted the computer. That's what that little error was, or message pop-up. So now you'll see that it says under my child's account, okay, that it is a standard account. So it doesn't have administrative rights. Now the student cannot install things like applications or make specific choices about how this is managed. I'm going to take it even a step further for my child, and I'm going to go ahead and say enable parental controls, and I'm going to click on open parental controls. This is going to allow me to make some choices about how I can help guide my child through the use of these different types of accesses. Because I've changed this account to just being a managed account, then it's asking for me to confirm that I am in fact an administrator. So and then I do have the rights to make these changes. Okay, so I just punched in my username and my password there. So here I am, I'm working on my student account, and under my student account I can go ahead and make some changes. So in the apps section, the Simple Finder, use Simple Finder, that's for really little kids, that's not necessarily important, so we don't want to limit their use there. Limiting applications could be a beneficial setting, however it could be problematic. So let's take a look at those. For instance, right now whatever I have checked means that my child can use that app or application. However, if something is not checked, that means that whenever they click on it in the applications folder, then it won't open unless they type in the administrative password. Well, why would that be helpful? Well, these are mostly games that I've downloaded from the App Store, so I'm going to unselect all of those. Because remember, if it has the blue check mark, it says that it's allowing that app to be used. So clearly, I don't want my child using all of these fun games when they're supposed to be working on work. Instead, I'm going to go through and select just the specific tools that I feel that they should have access to because that's important to their learning. As I do that, it allows the Kindle app, the iBook Author, Evernote, and then I can scroll down even further. This other apps area is actually all of the applications that are installed on your computer via other software. And this is very important. Most likely you're going to want to have this checked, okay? Because Acrobat, if it's not checked, then they wouldn't be able to open PDFs, address book, and so on and so forth. However, I might have one or two games that my child has downloaded that I want to limit them from playing. For instance, maybe Bridget is a game, so I'm going to unhook that, and Brother Status Monitor. Chess is a game that I don't want them to have access to. So I can turn off specific applications that I don't want this child to be able to play with when they're supposed to be working. Now, the kids can always access these or use these tools once they click on it. They can type in, or I'm sorry, they shouldn't, but you can then override those settings by typing in the administrative password to allow them to play it. Okay? Finally, as we scroll down, there are some other applications. So there's widgets. Widgets are just simply, if I hit my F4 button, these here are widgets, and they just, you can see they have some different little functions that can help kids work a little bit more efficiently. Finally, in these settings, we have allow user to modify dock, and yeah, there's no problem with the kids modifying their dock. That just means that they can make changes to the area below. We're going to move on to web, and in the web area, it defaults to try to limit access to adult websites. We are asking that you choose allow unrestricted access to websites. This is very important because the try to limit means that it doesn't really do a very good job. Okay, so we don't want you to think that they're being limited when they're really not. What we find with the try to limit or the allow access is that it blocks the things that we don't want it to block, and that it allows the things that we do. With allow unrestricted access to websites, our filtering system will provide protection here at school, and we encourage you to set up an open DNS system, which you'll have information on in this email about how to set that up. Okay, and so we encourage you to set that up at home. In addition to those resources, we also have logs, and logs will show you all of the activity that this child is doing once you have set these settings. So you can create conversations about the websites that they've visited while using these tools. We're going to look at people, but this part is not important to our kids. Neither of these tools are tools that we're asking. If you are currently upgraded to Mountain Lion, then you might also have a Game Center. Game Center is an online social networking based around games downloaded from iTunes, and we don't support that use either, so you really don't need to manage anything in here. Time limits. We don't recommend the weekday time limits because you'll see that it maxes out at 8 hours. If they're working on a big project, that's going to keep them from being able to do homework later on that night or really get some work done, since it limits it again to just 8 hours. So instead we recommend using the bedtimes. So for instance, if your child's bedtime is at 10 p.m., you want to make sure that they're not staying up late and chatting with friends. So you can select this. The computer will automatically log out at 10 p.m. It will give a 10-minute warning at 9:50, letting them know that it's going to log out at 10 p.m. So I find that very helpful. It will then in fact open to whatever they were working on before. Finally, we have the other section, and this is, I like to hide profanity, and then this is very important. We don't want our children to be able to change their password without us knowing it, so that way we can keep tabs on what they're doing. So disabling the changing the password is going to be key. Once I've finished those settings, I'm going to go back using this back button. And so I now know that I have enabled those parental controls. All right. And then there's one last item that I want to make sure that we do check is we're going to click Login Options, okay? In order to make any changes, we do need to unlock. And this is something that I didn't talk about. Remember, so this is exactly what it's going to look like for your child whenever they try and access something that they don't have permissions for. They would have to type in administration information. Automatic login, you want to make sure that that's turned off, because if you leave it to automatic logged in the parent, then it's automatically going to log your child into the administrative settings, which we don't necessarily want them to do. So we're going to have automatic login off and make sure that that's ready to go. Okay? Other options in here are up to you and your personal preference for settings. So before we go ahead and click here, one last thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just double check the settings. So Sean Sweeney managed. We're going to open Parental Controls. We're going to look that the web is allowed unrestricted access, because I did have trouble with that flipping back to try to limit access. We have gone through the apps section and we have limited applications based on games. Everything else that isn't a game should be allowed, specifically the ones listed under other apps, unless under other apps you have particular apps that are games, again, so that your child can't access those without parent permission. People we didn't focus on because those aren't tools that we're requesting at school, but if your child chooses to use those individually, you might want to have that conversation with them. We did set time limits. We said school nights and 10 p.m. And then finally we went through other, and we had limited and disabled. We are going to lock to save those, so let's just one last, I want to make sure, because remember I said the web popped out. We're going to lock to save those, making sure that those are managed correctly. I'm going to go ahead and click the back button. Okay, and now that I know that all locks and changes are made, I can close this, and then I'm going to click on the apple up here and choose Restart. That way all of those settings will take effect, and your child's computer will now be monitored via the parental controls that you have set. Hope that you found this helpful. Please let us know if you have any additional questions.